Hello, you absolutely amazing person, you. And by the way, contrary to this week's blog post, some of you may not be thinking that I believe you're an awesome person. I totally believe you're an awesome person because you're here. So just wanted to clear that up. Who am I? Sandy Boucher, Mishko Pognon and Dishnakas Mungdo Dem. I'm Red Thunderbolt Woman of the Loon Clan, a proud member of Seine River First Nation in Treaty 3 territory in Northern Ontario, and I'm here once again, this time with the February 4th lightning bolt review of this week's blog posts. And so, a confession, I guess, some behind-the-scenes content for you to start. Up until the last couple of years, your morning blog post was written 5 minutes before you saw it. I would wake up in the morning and write my blog post. And I loved that. But it also meant I could never sleep in. I couldn't take a day off during the week because that blog post had to go out. Ask a couple of guys I've dated. They didn't like it much either. Anywho, about a year ago, I started doing blog posts in advance, which allows me to schedule them, especially with my insane seminar schedule now. It just made more sense. It meant when I had the time to really focus on writing a blog post, I could do it and then I could schedule it. But, this is a big but, no bad jokes. When something in the news happens and I want to respond to it, if the blog posts are already scheduled, I don't have that option. So this week's Monday's post, which was, I don't even know what date that was, January 30th, sorry, I had to look at my schedule. It was so important that we pulled original blog posts. Ask my social media person how much fun that was. It wasn't fun. But this post was so important for me to comment on that I needed to put it out there. And that's because the January 30th post was called Empty Tank. And it was referring to Jacinda Ardern, who used to be the Prime Minister of New Zealand. And she announced, I think she's technically still is, but she announced she was stepping down. And all of a sudden, the world got flooded with these articles about burnout and the danger of burnout, and the ever popular, I think it was the BBC that put out, can women have them all? Are we all missing the point that Jacinda had it all and still does? She had it all as far as having her family and being prime minister for as long as she wanted to. And then she stepped down. She's still the empowered person. So don't take that away from her. Shame on you, BBC, and they really got called out for that. From a cultural perspective, as an Anishinaabe Kwe, I found the articles incredibly frustrating because in my world, there is a huge difference between emptying your tank and burning out. And I think the difference, burnout happens when someone else is telling you, you got to do this, this, and this. Emptying my tank is my life goal. In the post, I mentioned my elder, who when she passed, there was literally nothing of her left. I mean, even to the extent physically, she was tiny compared to the woman she used to be. And I did not find that upsetting because it just really reinforced the teaching that we are meant to give her all in the time that we have here. You can't take it with you. And one of the biggest cultural differences is, like, why are you hanging on? Why are you not giving it all? You can't take it with you. I have a serious problem with the idea that people believe that they're here for them. You are the latest chapter of your bloodline. You're an essential link in that chain. You're here to do your part, to live up to your responsibilities. I think if we are taught with a gift comes responsibility, life is a gift. What are you going to do with that? Live up to the responsibility. And some people say, no, that's too hard. That's hard on your mental health. It's actually good for your mental health. to realize you're an essential puzzle piece and that you're needed here, you're valued here. And yes, it can be confusing until you figure out how you're supposed to contribute, but that's part of the journey, trying things and realizing, I don't like that. That's not what I'm meant to be doing. The mistake is staying with the thing you don't like, thinking it's what you meant to be doing because someone else told you. So empty your tank. Give it all to something you love. Not your children, because your children are going to grow up and move on. They should not feel guilty about that. Not to your partner. Love and support and care for them, but that's not your mission. Why are you here? If you, single entity, you were born a single entity, why are you here? Who are you meant to inspire? What are you supposed to leave behind? And that's the hint. It's always about something you're going to leave behind. I think Jacinda set the most amazing example of leadership. Do not take it away from her, because she was smart enough to realize, and by the way, she never said her tank was empty. She said she didn't have enough in her tank to do it again. So think of that analogy, your vehicle. You fill up the tank. You're just going to sit there and never move the car because you want to make sure that tank still is full? No. You go out and you drive and you experience life and you bring it down to empty and you refill again. Probably in a different place, like Jacinda is doing. So I had to write that blog post. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it resonated with you. And please feel free to share this video with people. With a gift comes responsibility. I love meeting people that are living up to theirs. There's so many people in the nonprofit world giving their all every single day. Never any accolades. Amazing, beautiful people. They're not worrying about, they had to learn self-care. If they didn't, they're in trouble. Self-care, self-esteem, we've talked about this before. That was Monday's blog post. And this week was a lot of, what, we smarten up, please. January 31st, now again, backstory, context. That's what these videos are becoming about. On Facebook, that's where my career started. I always will cherish that Facebook group. But like a lot of business people, I also have my personal page. And I say that with a huge disclaimer, because my personal page is just for my inner circle, people that I interact with in my day-to-day personal life. And it never ceases to amaze me. Now, do not get me wrong. When I do my seminars, when I travel around the country, I meet amazing people all of the time. But then they want me to add them as a friend on Facebook. They have decided we are friends because we met once and we had a couple of kind words. That's not my definition of friend. Acquaintance? Sure. Are you an awesome person? Absolutely. But I'm not adding you to my private Facebook page unless we are hanging out in real life. That's not a shot against you. That's not a judgment. That's reality. And I think a friendship is reciprocal. You don't get to just decide I'm your friend, especially if I have trouble remembering where we met because it was only for 10 minutes at an event. I love that you like my work. Please follow my business page. I would love to interact with you. Get on my email list. You can send me a message. We can talk that way. I am not saying you can't contact me, but let's not get that confused with what a friend is. We all need good friends, and I hope we all value our friends. Acquaintances are not my friends. My friends, I can't do my life without them, and they've definitely earned that place. Now, so that was just because on Tuesday. On February 1st, which was the Wednesday, I was talking about the privilege on my page. It never ceases to amaze me. And you've seen me do blog posts about this, rants about this. You don't get to come on my page and teach my following. How absolutely arrogant of you. Have you worked 13 years to build a loyal following that they know they believe in you? No, you haven't. Feel free to comment by sending me a direct message, especially if you're Indigenous and you see something you disagree with. Send me a private message. If I made a mistake, I'm absolutely going on the page and clarifying it. No problem with that at all. If you're non-Indigenous, this is your chance to sit and listen and consider it, not to argue it, not to debate it, not even to ask a bunch of questions. Consider it. And I think that's that white supremacy, that no, I want to learn now, I should have the right to ask questions now. No, that's not how it works in many Indigenous communities. We go to an elder, we sit, we listen, we absorb that. The next time we hear them, we sit, listen, absorb that. We are handed the lessons as we are able to absorb them. We don't get to decide how quickly this journey goes. It's going to last our entire lifetime. So really need people. Everything that's on my page goes through me. It is verified by me. If I'm sharing a post, it's because of something I believe in. Other people do not have the right to do that. And that's just humility teaching. You wouldn't walk into my house without my permission. So don't start spitting things out on my page unless you've asked me to. And by the way, there's amazing people that ask me to all the time. Here's a post I would, I thought you might want to share it on your page. And when that happens and I agree, I do share it. And I totally appreciate that. And by the way, if you're doing it because you want to show you know stuff too, that's not humility teaching, that's ego. Okay, so you work on that, not on my page. I hope that made sense. I cannot see, it is really super sunny here. By the way, I'm also shooting this video a week early. It's like minus 40 out, which is why the turtleneck. I have to go out in a little bit. February 2nd's post was called Hate It. I hate it. And I made the comment, don't you hate it when people talk down to you? And, treat you like you're a 3-year-old. And that's why this year's posts are more direct and more blunt, because I'm not babying you. I trust in your wisdom and your knowledge and how much we've learned on this journey together. And if you're new here, you always have the option to private message me. Get on my email list and you can private message me. But I will not talk down to you. And I will not assume that we always have to be at step 1, because if we stay at step 1, reconciliation cannot happen. So if these blog posts seem a little blunt, I'm sorry, but that's why. Because I know you and I know how much learning you've already put in, and I'm respecting that. And then the last one, February 3rd, Friday's post, yesterday's post. I never realized before how close cultural appropriation and pretendians are, that it goes hand in hand. So what I'm clarifying again is the fact with cultural appropriation. If you have met someone who loves you and welcomes you with open arms and has shared Indigenous teachings with you, or, crafting, taught you how to bead, taught you how to work with leather, take that as a beautiful compliment to the amazing person you are. Do not take it as permission to become a teacher. That was for you and your family. It doesn't mean you now get to go out and say, look what I know, I can teach you how to do this. Ego, once again, rather than humility teaching. Save that and use it and keep it, but don't set yourself up as that teacher. And that's why I said it's so close to pretendians, because they are always setting themselves up as a teacher. With a gift comes responsibility. And the reality is no non-Indigenous person should be teaching about Indigenous culture. Yes, I said it. I'm going to repeat it. No non-Indigenous person should be teaching about Indigenous culture. Why? Because unless you've been, and there are very, very few cases where a child was completely raised within the Indigenous culture, they're going to inherit an Indigenous worldview just from their environment. But if you lived in a community for 10 years, that doesn't change your worldview, especially if you did it as an adult. Your worldview was changed a lot sooner. And what's going to happen? It's the telephone game. You know how you whisper something to that first person in the circle and it goes around and by the end it's not the same message? That's what happens to Indigenous teachings when they're passed on by non-Indigenous people. It passes through your cultural lens, your phrasing, your worldview, and it is no longer the original teaching. Which is also why pretendians who are claiming ancestry from like 6 generations ago, if you have not been experiencing those teachings or raised in that, you no longer carry an Indigenous worldview. That's why the pretendians are so dangerous. It's also why they're accepted by mainstream, because they sound like mainstream, because they are mainstream. So I hope that makes sense. Take what I share with you and use it. If someone wants to understand, direct them to my page, not because I'm all that in a bag of chips, but because I'm Indigenous and I can share and answer questions from that worldview, which is how we build the bridge. If non-Indigenous are going to keep speaking for Indigenous people, that's how we got into this mess. That's not what's going to get us out. Okay? So it was a hard week. Hard-hitting blog posts. And I hope you saw the humility teaching running through every single one of them. Back up. Stop before you post. Think. Just sit with it. Just because you agree doesn't mean you have to say something. And if you disagree, maybe that's a clue that you should really sit and consider it. Okay? I hope that made sense. If you have questions, email me. Sandy@sandyboucher.com. First thing I'm going to tell you to do is get on my list. And by the way, there's one last thing I want to talk about. Every now and then, because this is a daily email, I saw it last week or last year, I see it again this year, people saying, I'm getting way too many emails. I have to pull off your list. I totally understand that. I get tons of emails every single day. I also understand what you're saying loud and clear to me is reconciliation is not a priority for you. Because if you only want to think about reconciliation once a month or once a year when you take a course, you are not on the path to reconciliation. This is a day-to-day, and why I love the blog post is like 5 minutes. A 5-minute read that you can consider as you go about your life. If you can't put 5 minutes towards reconciliation, you are not an ally. Okay? Because ally has nothing to do with convenience. And I hope that resonated and made sense to you. I have no idea what next week's blog posts are going to be like. I do have something special coming up in a while, but I'm not sure when. Take care of you. I love you. Stay on the path with me, please. We need our allies. We need you to keep learning and growing, even when it's a hard lesson. Because trust me, being Indigenous in Canada is anything but easy. I love you. Take care. Bye-bye.